Right. I wanted to mention that I had this question. I received this question. And I thought it was so important to talk about because it's a mistake that I certainly made early on and still continue to sort of beat myself up from time to time about what is renunciation, renouncing. When we talk about we need to generate renunciation, then how do we not feel guilty when we're not trying hard enough, or not when we're indulging in worldly pursuits? What if I want to learn to play a musical instrument, for instance, or what if I want to learn to dance? What if I want to do these kinds of things that bring me great pleasure? So how do we reconcile that with our Dharma practice? How do we reconcile that? So we can see that if we're talking about giving up pleasure, that would be really difficult. But that's not what renunciation is. And this is something that we really have to wrap our mind around. Renunciation is giving up suffering. Renunciation is seeing that suffering comes from grasping onto pleasure. It doesn't come from enjoying pleasure. So if we want to do any of these, anything that we are doing becomes a Dharma practice if our intention is virtuous. So if our intention is to make beautiful music or perform beautiful dance as an offering to others, any of these things, or our intention is to wash the dishes or to take care of the children, and our intention is to be of help, then it becomes a Dharma practice when we think of it like that. So may I practice this instrument in order to make an offering? May all beings be happy as a result. So we can turn any activity into a Dharma activity when we set our motivation to be our highest good, to be enlightened, to become a Buddha. If we set that as our motivation before we begin any action, it becomes a Dharma action. Because actually, Dharma means to hold back or to protect. So what happens is when we have a motivation and intention to be of benefit with even a very mundane activity, we're having the mind that's engaging in that is a virtuous mind. So we're practicing Dharma at the same time. Lama Zopa Rinpoche has many, many, many bodhicitta mindfulnesses. Like, for instance, you're washing the dishes and you're removing all of the suffering from all the beings. You're removing everyone's hatred, including your own, when you're washing the dishes. When you're opening the door, you're opening the door for all sentient beings to become enlightened. You're brushing your teeth. He told his dentist that when he brushed his teeth, he was removing all of the suffering of all sentient beings. So any action that we do can become a Dharma action. We're not renouncing our pleasure. We use it, we recognize it. This pleasure that I have now, may all beings be able to abide in this kind of pleasure. May all beings have such good fortune that I have. How wonderful it would be if all beings had a beautiful life, that they could rest in ease the way I do, to have a beautiful meal. Oftentimes we say a prayer before meals and we offer it to all of the Buddhas, but also to think at the same time of the interdependence that we have with all the beings who brought the meal to us, right? Those who planted it and those who picked it and those who delivered it and those who sold it. So much interdependence, even for our food. So if we can remember that, may I always remember to provide goodness for others, then it becomes a virtue. So Lama used to say, enjoy as much as possible, dear, without grasping. What we renounce is the grasping, thinking that if I do this, I will permanently be happy because my happiness is coming from that. And that's just not the way it is. If that is if we think, we can be developing our pride if we think I'm going to be the best at doing this so that I will be better than everyone else. And that would not be a virtuous motivation. But we can transform all of our problems into the path to enlightenment simply by the right intention, to have the right intention and to stay focused as we do this. So I realize as we get into, this is the fourth of 5 classes, I realize that, here we are on the lower scope, only the wish to have a positive future life. And we'll get into the wish for complete liberation from samsara tonight. So I think I should try to move more quickly through this lamrim, or we're just going to be here. We're going to miss. But I really feel it's important to meditate. So I think it's important to really try to get a sense of the feeling of these topics. And so I think that's how we should be thinking like that it's okay. If we don't make it through all of the topics between now and the next week, that's all right. We can finish in the future. We have a future. Holding death and impermanence as our guide, we will move forward. Okay. So I think we'll start with some prayers, right? Or first some meditation, and then we'll do some prayers. But I wanted to bring that question forward. Does anyone else have any questions before I carry on with tonight? Does anybody have a question? You can always stick it in the chat too. So. Okay. All right, so let's find our meditation seat, okay? And settle in a bit. To bring the mind here to this place right now. In this moment, letting go of what we were doing before or what we plan to do after. And just bring the mind to the present. Making a determination to actualize our highest potential. To liberate all beings from the ocean of samsara suffering. And place them in the bliss of perfect enlightenment. Therefore, we're going to engage in these teachings this evening and in this meditation. So with this determination, settling into our meditation posture, allowing the spine to lengthen and straighten. And thereby the energy flows nicely through the body. And to settle into relaxation, please bring your awareness to the crown of your head. And as we begin to float down through the center of the body like a warm light shining, softening and releasing any tension that appears around your eyes and your brow. And coming down to your jaw, your mouth, softening and releasing tension, letting your facial muscles be soft. And then coming into the back of your neck and across your shoulders. And down your arms, all the way to your fingertips. Your hands resting gently in your lap. As you begin to float down your torso. Noticing any tension around your shoulder blades, your chest, down to the small of your back. All the way to your sit bones. Soften and relax your belly to receive the full breath. Bringing awareness all the way to the ground as we go down our legs. All the way to the tips of the toes. Feeling the seat, the cushion. Feeling stable, grounded in this moment, safely held. Body completely relaxed and still. attending to the breath in the body. Noticing the rising and falling of the belly. The brightening on the inhale and the relaxing on the exhale. And then fine-tuning your awareness by bringing it to the sensation at the tip of the nose, if that feels comfortable for you. Wherever it manifests most distinctly. Perhaps holding it at the belly or the nostrils. The sensation as the breath flows out and back in again. Just the breath. Letting it be center stage. All thoughts, sensations, emotions. Simply arise and pass. Without conceptualizing about them. Just the breath. That's all. Nothing to do. Nothing to undo. simply breathing. Counting if it's useful. If the mind is relatively stable, you can simply release the breath and attend to awareness itself, the knowing of knowing. Mind like the sky. Like fog that dissipates into thin air without going anywhere, without staying anywhere. All the conceptions rising in our mind dissipate by seeing our own mind. They're like waves rising up and falling down. Like clouds passing in the sky. Like the sky is devoid of any shape or color. Its nature is immutable, unblemished by clouds of black or white. Just so, our own mind, devoid of any shape or color, can never be obstructed by good or bad, black or white. So within this state of vast luminous awareness, out of compassion, we call our Lama to come and we engage in these practices. Okay. So now, think about your teachers. Maybe you have had many. Maybe you have one heart Lama. You can think of them all coming as one in the aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha. And we surround ourselves by all the sentient beings. Mom on our left and dad on our right. Friends and family behind us. The troublemakers in our life in front of us. And all the sentient beings of the 6 classes. In human form, but manifesting their own particular kinds of suffering. Oh, please come, great hero, the teacher of beauty, creation, destruction, self-arisen, the wisdom of emptiness, and that so we see our Lama before us, and we lead all the sentient beings in refuge. I go for refuge until enlightenment to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha by my virtuous actions of giving and so on. May I become a Buddha to benefit all beings. I go for refuge until enlightenment to the mind of enlightenment, to seeing emptiness directly, and to the Arya beings who have. May I become a Buddha to benefit all beings. I go for refuge until enlightenment, with confidence in the knowledge that the nature of my own mind is wisdom. Its expression is clarity, and its compassion is all pervasive. May I become a Buddha to benefit all beings. May all beings abide in equanimity, free of attachment and aversion. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings find good rebirths and the bliss of liberation. I will help us to have these. Please, Guru Buddha, bless me to be able to do this. I prostrate with body, speech, and mind. I make each and every offering. I confess my mistaken karma and rejoice in every virtuous deed. Please, Buddha, stay until samsara ends. Teach Dharma to every sentient being. I dedicate to great enlightenment. And then out of gratitude for the gifts we have been given, we make this offering. Oh, this ground scented with perfume and covered with flowers, adorned by Mount Meru, 4 worlds, sun and moon, I imagine as a Buddha land, and then offer it. May all beings enjoy this pure land. I send this jeweled mandala to you, my precious Guru. And we make this request. Oh, magnificent and precious root Guru, please abide on the lotus and moon seat above my head. Guide me with your great kindness and grant me realizations of your holy body, speech, and mind. So now we see our Lama, whose holy body is made of light, coming to the crown of our head. And from their crown, their throat, and their heart, nectars and rays of light flow down, granting us the realizations on this path to enlightenment. May I be inspired by Guru devotion, uplifted by the preciousness of this human life, shed the fetters of attachment and aversion through a knowledge of impermanence, be protected by refuge, guided by a knowledge of actions and their results, aim for liberation through renunciation. May I be motivated by bodhichitta, opened by giving, disciplined by ethical behavior, strengthened by patience, enthused by joyous effort, stabilized by concentration, and freed by wisdom. Our Lama is pleased with our request. And we ask, oh, magnificent and precious root Guru, please abide on the lotus and moon seat at my heart. Guide me with your great kindness and stay with me always until I attain enlightenment. So then our Lama melts into a small sphere of light. And this sphere begins to descend down through our crown, gradually coming to rest at the level of our heart. This sphere of light, whose nature is love, becomes energized as we inhale, and it expands as we exhale. Love is wishing the beloved to have happiness in all its causes. As we inhale, think, may I be well and happy. And as we exhale, may I actualize my full potential. As this light expands, grows brighter and expands. And our whole body becomes filled with this blissful, warm, radiating, loving light. From head to toe, to fingertips. Every cell filled with loving energy. And think, oh, I am loved. And it is my nature to love. Breathing in, it's energized. Breathing out, it expands until it becomes uncontainable and begins to pass through all of our pores. And it touches those in our room with this wish: may you be well and happy. May you realize your full potential. And see that love being received. Going to all those who are close to us. In this circle we have created. Let your mind's eye rest on them, individually or all together. May you be well and happy. May you realize your full potential. Breathing in, that light is energized. And breathing out, we follow it, offering it to the troublemakers in our life. Knowing that just like me, they are blown by the winds of their karma and afflicted emotions. May you be well and happy and realize your full potential. Breathing in, we remove the suffering from the hell realms. May you be well and happy. May you realize your full potential. As we breathe out, we give them everything they need. Breathing in, our love is energized. And breathing out, it expands. Bring to mind all those beings suffering in the hungry ghost realm. May you be well and happy. May you realize your full potential. Inhaling, it's energized. Exhaling, passes through our pores and touches all the beings in the animal realm. May you be well and happy and realize your full potential. From the biggest animals to the tiny insects. Inhaling, energizing, exhaling, filling the human realm. May you all be well and happy and realize your full potential. Inhaling, it's bright. Exhaling, this warm love of light goes to the demigod realm. May you be well and happy and realize your full potential. And then inhaling, exhaling to the God realm. May you be well and happy. May you realize your full potential. And simply imagine all the beings having received this great blessing of love. And being happy and well. Then gradually let the awareness come back, contracting back and dissolving all conceptualization. As the light is once again the size of the room. And then the size of your body. And then a very small sphere of warm light. As we penetrate it with our mind, it becomes smaller, smaller, and even smaller until it is imperceivable. And we rest there in a state of non-conceptual, luminous awareness, knowing this is the true nature of my mind. Clear, awake, and aware. And out of compassion for all beings, we create an energy body, a bodhisattva's body, to wish to always be of benefit and never harm. So now, do a little recapitulation to remember what we have thought about thus far. That mind is merely clear and aware. Clarity and awareness, mere clarity and awareness. And it is from mind that everything arises. The great master Saraha said, I bow down to that which grants me every goal I desire. I bow down to that wish-granting jewel. I bow down to the mind, the seed of everything. So we study the mind using the mind, right, in our meditations. And we think about the three principal aspects of the path, which is the whole path to freedom. Developing renunciation or definite emergence. I will emerge from this cycle of existence. Developing bodhicitta, the great wish, bodhicitta, bodhi enlightenment. Chitta is mind. So an enlightenment mind, it's the great wish with a capital W. A wish to become enlightened in order to free all beings. We talked about following a teacher. We talked about the 6 realms. It's useful to do your meditation when you're purifying sentient beings, to think about those realms just as we talked about them. And then as you study them and you think about the hell realms, you can think about those the different ones and how they manifest. Because when we think of the lower realms, it really makes us not want to go there, to do what we need to do in order to avoid that. And what is it that takes us to the lower realms? It's afflicted emotions, karma and delusions. Deluded mind creating negative karma. We talked about how precious this life is that we have. And we talked about the fact that we're going to lose it. Right? So when we talk about the purpose of spiritual practice being to create happiness and not to make us miserable, how do we do that? How do we practice? Lama Zopa Rinpoche says in the day 11 of the year of the lamrim year, he said, this is in a focus on guru devotion. Lama Zopa Rinpoche says that in our daily life, we become closer to enlightenment each time we're able to carry out a piece of our guru's advice given to us by our virtuous friend. Each time that we're able to practice the teachings, we come a step closer to enlightenment. So when we recognize that, each time, each step closer, if we're aware of this benefit, then we'll see that we're gaining this inconceivable merit all the time that we're following our guru's advice. And our life becomes really enjoyable, because just washing the dishes, the advice is think about sentient beings. So we think about sentient beings and we can be happy washing the dishes, right? We have respect for all sentient beings, respect for all living things, and avoiding any kind of harm. I really like the word ahimsa. It means avoiding violence or avoiding harm. Ah is not, and himsa is harming. Not harming. So I think that's ahimsa. I think that's a good one, a good mantra. So we discussed the 3 levels of refuge and living an ethical life, which is the foundation of the Buddhist path. We took a brief look at the 6 realms, which gives us a real appreciation for our current reality, what it means to have a precious human life, and how rare it is, how very rare it is. So we don't want to just waste it away. We still enjoy our pleasures, but we use them, right? We use them because we know that death is definite. So we should practice. We should practice. We don't know when death will come, so we should practice now. And at the time of death, what's going to be of any use? Just our spiritual intelligence. That's all. So we should practice really well. Engaging in the meditations on death, the 3 points and the 9 reasonings. Getting really familiar with how impermanent, how fragile the life is. We determine to train our mind to live our lives mindfully and wisely. So as an initial motivation, we seek positive future lives by living an ethical life and relying on our refuge. When you think about it, if we take refuge in worldly things, thinking that they're going to bring us happiness, it's really a bit insane, because we've discovered over and over again that it doesn't work. And that's what wasn't it Einstein that said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So we recognize that we need a paradigm shift here. So we take refuge and tend the mind, our garden, our mind garden. We pull the weeds and we plant the flowers, and we practice. By practicing, that's what we do. So when we take refuge in the Buddha, we find safety. Refuge is seeking safety or protection. So we find safety in the quality of awareness, Buddha, awakened one. So we're finding protection in being awake and aware, the capacity of our heart, our mind to be awake. And we take refuge in that. And the primary attribute of Dharma is wakefulness, mindfulness, holding us back, protecting us, awake and aware. So when it's clear how things are, when we're awake and aware, it becomes clear how things are, how things can be in a sense of harmony, integration, security, always changing. But there's a purity and a peacefulness in that wakefulness, in that acceptance. Like Krishnamurti said, whatever happens, I don't mind. Whatever happens, I don't mind. So this awakened awareness gives us an opportunity to begin to see how it is that we truly do exist when we practice, when we meditate, and we begin to see the spaces between. When we rest in that awakened awareness, when we rest in that, and we see thoughts coming and going, and sensations coming and going. So to develop the stability in knowing, this is the essence of insight meditation, is to develop this concentration and our stability in presence, in being present, in seeing, awake and aware, living a life of virtue, ahimsa, a life of non-harming. So this creates a safety when there is firmly established awareness within us. So once this awareness is present and stable, then whatever happens, happiness, unhappiness, we're simply awake and aware. And awareness remains unconfused. So it's like a mirror. Awareness is like a mirror. The patterns that appear may be beautiful, may be ugly. They may be novel or they may be familiar. But the mirror remains undisturbed. So there's a pure equanimity, a pure serenity, a purity. The heart is undisturbed. Refuge in the Buddha refers to this stability of awareness, that wonderful, clear openness within which the heart can receive all experiences without duality, without difficulty. And we see that the initial or lower motivation for our practice is to have positive future lives. But then we move to the middle scope. And the middle scope motivation is freedom from samsara. It's renunciation. It's definite emergence. Nyenjong, definitely getting out of here. It's the determination to be free of cyclic existence altogether. When we realize that there's no guarantee of happiness to be found anywhere in samsara. I think it was Geshe Loden in his book, Path to Enlightenment, where he said, it doesn't matter whether you live in a peaceful forest setting or a high-rise apartment in a busy city, as long as you're under the control of karma and delusion, your address is samsara. And samsara is the condition of being subject to the cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death, birth, aging, sickness, and death, birth, aging, sickness, and death, propelled from one life to another by the force of one's own mental distortions, delusions, and the actions or the karma conditioned by them. Nirvana means final liberation from that condition of samsaric existence, freed from the mental afflictions. The main three are fundamental confusion or ignorance, ignorant attachment, and ignorant hatred. Master Shantideva said, the mind that sees the emptiness of the mind is nirvana. Understanding how karma works motivates us. It motivates the mind to this ethical life, living within the 10 virtues. Body, speech, and mind, every action matters. And then meditating on the truth of suffering as it applies to ourselves is a means of cultivating a spirit of emergence. And meditating on suffering as regards to others' suffering, that leads us to compassion. So this is the middle motivation, the middle scope. So we study, in this case, we look at how karma works and what is the suffering of samsara. Now we have to know that Buddha didn't make up the do's and don'ts of Buddhist ethics. Like I said before, he didn't say, this is how it is. He said, you check. This is how it appears to me, and you check. So we have to think about these topics and we have to apply them to our life and see how it is that they work for us. Buddha didn't make up these do's and don'ts of Buddhist ethics. He observed the results of actions and he reported them. Some actions generate suffering, and he labeled them unwholesome or non-virtuous. And other actions generate happiness, and he referred to them as wholesome or virtuous. And this is the natural law of cause and effect. The word karma simply means actions, but it has come to mean actions and their results. We usually think, oh, that's his karma when we're seeing the result. The fact of the matter is that we have full responsibility over our lives, and therefore everything we do matters. So this can give us great hope, because that means we can change, because everything is changeable and there are no accidents and no mistakes. So there is a distinction made between cause and condition. So for instance, if we might ask ourselves, does hard work produce wealth? I think we can see the answer to that question is no. Because two people can work equally hard and have very different results. And there is a delay between the action and the result. So karma is a very deep subject, and Buddha said you have to really be enlightened to be able to fully understand it. But if we have a cursory understanding of it, we can have real confidence that if we learn the rules and live by them, we can not only sustain our already miraculous existence, but we can bring our lives to their ultimate culmination. Perfect and ultimate happiness and bliss. So if you remember our discussion about the nature of mind, merely clear and knowing, transformation is possible because the continuity of consciousness is impermanent. Nothing is fixed in concrete. Nothing whatsoever. There's no negative action that cannot be purified. No karmic pattern of behavior that cannot be transformed. And transformation occurs through organizing our life around our intentions. As I said, like that, organizing our life around our intentions. And to awaken requires steadfast, earnest practice. And it doesn't just mean on our cushion. That's a very small part of our practice. Our practice is as much as possible to be awake and then to abide in a state of virtue. Understanding the nature of mind and karma is the key to creating whatever future we want. Karma has these general aspects. The first one is that karma is certain. Master Shanti Davis says, a cause of something is that thing which, when it's absent, its effect can't happen. That thing which, when it is absent, its effect can't happen. And when it is present, the effect must happen. So what this means is, he says, that's how he describes karma is certain. So positive actions certainly bring positive results in some form of happiness. And conversely, negative actions bring suffering. And there's no effect without a cause. There's no effect without a cause. If you didn't create the cause for wealth, it doesn't matter how many jobs you hold. And what the scriptures say is the cause for wealth? Generosity. So if you give it away, you get it. Then the second general aspect of karma is that it increases. Karma increases. It grows over time, like an acorn grows into an oak tree. So you do positive actions, their effect continues to grow, continues to grow. You do a negative action, the effect gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And this all depends on whether or not there are mitigating circumstances. So if you've created a negative action, you can purify it before it grows into an oak tree. Then actions, the third one is actions not done don't bring results. So in other words, we could wish for wealth, work hard, have extra jobs, more schooling, start a business, and we have no success. We didn't create the karma for wealth. So if you didn't create the cause to die in a plane crash, you would survive that one. You know, sometimes there's a plane crash and say, why did that person live? Well, they hadn't created the cause to die at that time. And then the fourth one is actions done are not wasted. So in other words, actions will ripen in the future when the right circumstances meet the right cause, causes and conditions. So how does karma work? What makes what would be called a throwing karma, a complete karma, one that throws you into a lower rebirth? So there are 4 parts to it. The first one is your intention. So you have to have discrimination. So you have a clear recognition of the object. Let's say killing karma, for instance, we could say that. So you clearly recognize that's the person that I want to kill. And I have a full intention to complete that action. So I have a discrimination, knowing the object. I have a motive. I intend to complete that action. And there's a delusion present. So I'm either angry or I'm attached or there is fundamental ignorance. So one of those 3, there is a delusion present. So the weight of the karma, the weight of the negative karma depends on, they say, nature and object. So the nature is the degree of harm inflicted. So if you use your body, you kill someone, which makes sense, doesn't it? And the object, it's heavier karma if the object is someone who has shown you great kindness or is highly developed, such as your teacher. So then there is the intention. So killing with hatred rather than having it be accidental. Then the means, how you did the killing, how much suffering was involved in that. It's not very nice to even think about it, is it? So the greater the suffering inflicted, the heavier the weight. The frequency, how many times you do it, then that makes it heavier karma. And a lack of opponent. So if you don't purify it. So those are present. The object, the intention, the act itself, and the completion. So you have an object, you see the object, you have an intention to carry out that, you do the act, and that you complete it. So in other words, that person dies before you do. So that creates a complete throwing karma that will throw you into the lower realms. Then if we talk about the mechanics of karma, this is kind of interesting because there's 4 ways that karma ripens. So it ripens as a kind of rebirth. You can be reborn in any of the 6 realms. Positive actions produce rebirth in the upper realms, and negative actions produce rebirth in the lower realms. Also, the effect is similar to the cause. So our personality, our habits, our tendency to behave in certain ways come from the actions of the past. So for instance, with killing karma, our mind will have a tendency to kill again. Or we'll be born in a place where the whole country is at war, or in a fishing village where we have to kill to live. Be born in a place where there's so much violence. So the experiences are also similar to the cause. So the way you're treated, how people treat you, or what you experience is the way you've treated others in the past. And then the environment supports the wish and the ability to continue the same habitual karmic patterns. So interesting. But we can do something about the mistakes we have made in the past and in this life. And anytime we are recognizing that we've been asleep and we have engaged in harmful actions. So we apply what's called the four opponent powers. And there is a practice, the Vajrasattva practice, that embodies those four opponent powers. And the scriptures say that if you recite Vajrasattva's mantra 28 times every day, you stop the growth of any negative karma. So you can purify your karma every day. There are a lot of things that we do that we don't really realize we have done. They're accidental. They're not necessarily going to throw us into a lower realm, but they're harmful nonetheless. And we might say something that produces harm that we don't realize it wasn't our intention to harm. So to purify every day is really useful. So there are the four opponent powers, the power of refuge. So this is because non-virtue is created in relation to the three jewels or the sentient beings. Just as we use the ground to hold us up, we take refuge and generate bodhicitta. And we do that when we practice Vajrasattva. So this is the power of refuge. And then the power of regret. So the extent to which we purify, it depends on the strength and sincerity of your regret. You know, somebody says, well, you could at least apologize. And you go, yeah, sorry. You know, there's a certain level there of not having much regret. So we should be thinking, the teachings say, thinking the kind of regret that we have is if we'd gone to a restaurant with friends and we all ordered the same thing. And slowly, each one is getting sick. And you realize that the mushrooms in that gravy are poison. And so you want to be free of that immediately, right? So someone says, oh, sentient beings have eaten at the notorious negative karma restaurant. I like that. Our systems are infected with the poisons of attachment, hatred, and confusion or ignorance. So we have regret for that. Even if we can't remember during the day, we can simply say, you know, whatever I have done that caused any harm, I sincerely regret because it's my wish to bring all beings to happiness. So we have that regret. That's the power of regret. And then there's the power of the remedy. So any virtuous action can be an antidote. We can do prostrations. We can recite mantras. We can engage in meditation on emptiness. We can make offerings. We can practice generosity. All of those done with a bodhicitta motivation and the recognition of emptiness is the most powerful. Recognition of emptiness is the most powerful remedy. So we have the power of the remedy, and reciting Vajrasattva's mantra is perfect. And then the power of resolve. So we make a promise not to do it again. And in this case, it's really important to establish a habit of fulfilling one's promise. So therefore, we commit to abandoning whatever negative karma it was. And we practice this purification daily. So we recognize when I see myself engaging in a negative action, and I realize, oh, I did that again. Okay, please, I want to purify that. So when we really make a strong resolve, I don't want to do that, there's less of a chance of doing it again. So it's really powerful. And it's most powerful when you feel most effective, when you feel that the practice that you have done has totally purified you. So when Vajrasattva dissolves into you after you have recited your 28 mantras and Vajrasattva, all of his holy qualities dissolve into you, then you really think completely purified and sit with that. So if you're not familiar with the Vajrasattva practice, you can find it on the FPMT website. You can get that practice. And I also have a practice which I can have put up that you can download if you want to do that. And I thought for the moment that what better way to engage in purification than to do Vajrasattva practice right now in a very brief way, which you could do every single day. So I think we will do that. If I can share my screen so you can see Vajrasattva here. Let's see. First, I have to do this. No, that's not right. Oh my, sometimes I feel I have to stop it and start it again. It doesn't really make sense. So I think I need a lesson. I need to go somewhere and get a lesson in sharing screens and
Elaine, it may have been that I neglected to put you as co-host. I think it should be right now.
okay, but when yes, okay, here we go. Let's try that. Let's see what happens if I do that. But first I have to play it. Play from the current slide and then share the screen, right? But you see, you can't do that. Sorry. You have to, I have to share the screen first and then okay, let's try it and let's find it. This is what I want. There, is that Vajrasattva? Do you see Vajrasattva? Hooray. Okay, this is Vajrasattva. His holy body is made of light. And so we allow Vajrasattva just to come to the crown of our head. Allow him to be about 4 inches above your head. And he's seated on a beautiful white lotus on a moon disk. His body is made of white light, and he's adorned with beautiful ornaments, clothes of celestial silk. So you simply imagine this beautiful Buddha above your head, whose body is made of white light. And at his heart is the syllable hum and the mantra around it. He has a long mantra, a 100-syllable mantra, but for our purposes, we're going to recite the short mantra, which is simply Om Vajrasattva Hum. Om Vajrasattva Hum. So if we think before we go to bed at night, we take some time. Vajrasattva is our refuge, and we take refuge and we think, oh, I look at the harmful actions that I may have done physically or verbally or mentally. Any of those that I can remember that I have created, and then I think, and all of those that I can't remember that I have created. And I generate a deep regret for them and have a strong wish to be free from the suffering results and to avoid causing harm to others in the future. So I see Vajrasattva as a combination of wisdom and compassion of all the Buddhas, and as my own wisdom and compassion in fully developed form. And I make this deeply heartfelt request. O Bhagavan Vajrasattva, please clear away all negative karma and obscurations, of myself and all living beings, and purify all degenerated and broken commitments. So Vajrasattva is absolutely delighted. And from the home of his heart, light rays radiate in all directions, asking the Buddhas to bestow their blessings. And they send forth white rays of light and nectar, the essence of which is enlightened knowledge. And this light and nectar absorbs into the hum and the mantra at Vajrasattva's heart, filling his whole body, completely enhancing the magnificence of his appearance and increasing the brilliance of the mantra. So now, as we recite the mantra, I'll lead you through this, coming through the center of our body. So we allow Vajrasattva's light to come into our crown with Om Vajrasattva Hum. It's like a soft shower coming down then to our throat. Om Vajrasattva Hum. All negativity is being completely eliminated with this bright light that comes. And then from the throat down to the heart, Om Vajrasattva Hum. And then to the navel, Om Vajrasattva Hum. And then to the pelvic floor, Om Vajrasattva Hum. To the knees, Om Vajrasattva Hum. To the soles of the feet, Om Vajrasattva Hum. Now the whole body has been filled with this light. And as we begin with the second round, it becomes brighter as we start. It's filling up now from the soles of the feet. Om Vajrasattva Hum. The knees, Om Vajrasattva Hum. Pelvic floor, Om Vajrasattva Hum. The navel, Om Vajrasattva Hum. The heart, Om Vajrasattva Hum. The throat, Om Vajrasattva Hum. And the crown, Om Vajrasattva Hum. And then again, Om Vajrasattva Hum, 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 Om Vajrasattva Hum. And then starting again from the soles, Om Vajrasattva Hum, 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 Om Vajrasattva Hum. Now your whole body, completely filled with this light and nectar. All negativities and impurities are gone like fog in the sunlight, without going anywhere or staying anywhere. And feel you are just completely empty of all these problems, completely purified. So rejoice in that. How wonderful. In this moment, I am completely pure. And then we apply the power of resolve, addressing Vajrasattva, saying, through ignorance and delusion, I have broken and degenerated my commitments. O spiritual master, be my protector and refuge. Lord, holder of the Vajra, endowed with great compassion, in you, the foremost of beings, I take refuge. And I make a strong determination. I shall do my best not to do these destructive actions again in the future. And Vajrasattva is extremely pleased. And he says, my spiritual child, all your negativities, obscurations, and degenerated vows have now been completely purified. And Vajrasattva dissolves into me. My body, speech, and mind become inseparably one with Vajrasattva's holy body, speech, and mind. Vajrasattva is a loving, purifying energy, relieving us of all our unhappiness and its causes. And as we rest in this moment, purified, realize, come to see clearly that in the truth of clear present awareness, there's peace. Concentrate and believe in this. And think, I am this peaceful, pure, non-conceptual awareness. This is my true home. How wonderful. So this is something that can be done every evening pretty quickly. And then you can think completely purified. And it gives you a chance to think about your life and the kinds of turns you want to make, kinds of different ways of behaving that you want to engage in. So it's super, super useful. Really. You become a non-doer. Back in the day, in the 70s, when I was a smoker, at that time, there was, you could go into a restaurant and choose smoking or non-smoking. So when I quit smoking, I really liked being a non-smoker. So in this case, you're a non-doer of these negative actions, right? So the next topic after karma is suffering, the suffering of samsara, how it is. We tend to think that because we have a beautiful life, there's not much suffering in it. So karma and suffering of samsara are two contemplations of the middle scope, in which we are wishing to definitely emerge from all suffering, right? We may have a very beautiful life with very little suffering in this life. And what kinds of causes are we creating for our future life? This is to be considered. What we have in this life is a result of our previous life. That's to think about. How wonderful to live in a country where we have religious freedom, to have a place where we have a roof over our head and plenty of food to eat, and all the freedoms and endowments that we have coming from pure prayer and pure morality and the rest. So we can check and see if we're creating the cause for a similar result. So why should we meditate on suffering? Because without an understanding of our condition, we'll be, as Lama Tsongkhapa says, we will be attached to the joys of cyclic existence, and we won't recognize and cultivate its causes, which is virtue. So when Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree and became enlightened, his first teaching was on what are called the Four Noble Truths, or the Four Arya Truths, because this is what you see when you recognize how reality exists, the truth of suffering. When we look closely, all of us are suffering every day in a multitude of ways. even the small ones, we have suffering. There's gross suffering. There's subtle suffering. So it's the texture of our unexamined, unfree experience of existence. There's a certain amount of there's uncertainty, and there's a certain amount of suffering in that uncertainty. So there's an experience because of a life that identifies only with form and an egoic sense of self. There is suffering. The experience is just an underlayment of unease, of limitation, and a sense of separation. But no matter how another person treats us, or how difficult a situation might be, or which of our personal needs we feel wasn't met, we actually have the power to transform our own state of mind from resentment to peace and contentment. So what is the truth of the origin of suffering? So it can be seen if we're willing to look. Sometimes in our meditations, we go into a meditation of trying to find that one. If we're willing to look, that suffering arises from causes that are dynamic and patterned and hidden beneath a fog of ignorance. We can trace the origin of suffering to the dependently arising conditions that churn out a grasping, seemingly separate sense of self. We suffer because we continually choose to identify with and focus on how we feel. So the truth of cessation, the cessation of suffering, this dissatisfying and unfree experience of existence is possible for each of us, each and every one of us. It's our birthright, it's our precious gift, and our life's most meaningful task. If we come to accept that our emotions are the cause of our suffering, we can eradicate the attachment to and identification with them that cause us so much suffering. And then the truth of the path. There's a path out of suffering. All the masters of old tamed their emotions using the tools and techniques presented by the path of Dharma. So if we practice the path in the same way they did, we can be sure that positive changes will come. And we can share those positive changes with the people in our lives. These are the skillful practices in every authentically transformative tradition that create the conditions for the cessation of suffering. So inquiry pokes holes in the veil of ignorance and effects a transformative shift. So suffering arises with the self that we believe we are. So Alan Wallace once told a story that one Tibetan said, many Americans comment on the joyful disposition of Tibetan people, especially when they travel to Tibet. And this Tibetan said, I believe this happy disposition comes from how we Tibetans enjoy our family and community connections and do not spend too much time focusing on our own personal emotions. People who speak English identify directly with their emotions, saying, I am angry, rather than I have anger. And they do They do this regularly. I'm unhappy. I am that. But in other languages, for instance, Spanish, and in the Tibetan language, so we say, in Spanish, we say, I have anger. Or in Tibetan, anger is present. But we don't connect the emotion with the I at all. So people thinking only of I am angry, lose their compassion for others and have trouble understanding how they feel. So they might express things in hurtful ways, and even the people they love. So in the end, they've done just the opposite of what they set out to do. They thought that protecting themselves and paying attention to their feelings, yes, would make them happier. But actually, their unhappiness increases. So in the Dharma, there's a saying, all people desire happiness, but instead they chase suffering. So when we reflect on our relationship with our emotions, we can see how this is true. It's very interesting to look at in a mindful way, to see what's happening. So suffering of samsara needs to be seen. We have to face the sobering fact that there's no place to hide within samsara to avoid suffering. Lama Tsongkhapa, in the Source of All My Good, said, bless me to see all that's wrong with the seemingly good things of this life. I can never get enough of them. They cannot be trusted. They are the door to every pain I have. Grant me then to strive instead for the happiness of freedom. So what are all of these sufferings in a life that seems to be relatively peaceful and at ease? Well, we have the suffering of suffering, mental and physical pain. I think each one of us has had times of mental and physical pain. And the suffering of change, the fact that nothing lasts. We can see, more wrinkles. As I told my daughter, her back was bothering her. And, as she's sitting down, as she was getting up, I said, oh yes, getting up like an old cow. That's what Rupa Rinpoche said, as you get old, you sit down like a sack of potatoes and you get up like an old cow. Anyway, we got a good laugh out of that, but it's really not so funny. So nothing lasts. Everything is changing. Everything is changing. And as I mentioned, we like to think that we can get it all set. We can fix it all really nice. We're working toward making our samsara perfect. But samsara is terminally broken. And then there is all-pervasive suffering, which Lama Zopa Rinpoche is all-pervasive compounded suffering. So these aggregates are contaminated by delusion and karma, and they act as a magnet for suffering. So by being overcome by delusion, by getting really angry, creating karma, we continue to create suffering. By creating grasping desire, we continue to create suffering. So we have a persistent and false belief. And we have habits of mind. So habits of mind, and we believe in what the mind is saying. But when we sit, we can see, oh, that thought is just like a cloud passing in the sky. I don't have to believe in that. Now I'll tell you a story that happened today, which was, I went to the doctor today just for a well check, and I'm in very good shape. And on my way home, because I was fasting in order to have a blood test, I thought, I'm going to stop and I'm going to get a sweet roll, a cinnamon roll. I passed by the first place because as I got closer, I thought, no, I won't stop there. I'll go to the next place, you know. And I did that 3 times, finally bypassing them all and coming home without indulging in something that I knew wouldn't be very good in the moment. But had I really believed that there would be pleasure, lasting pleasure in that, I would definitely have stopped, and maybe stopped twice, right? Because I was out in town and I live half an hour from town. So I don't go in very often. And I'm not tempted very often by these delicacies. So this is believing. You know, we have these habits of mind and we believe in what's arising. So meditation on the suffering of the lower realms, coupled with the understanding that our reality is a dependent arising. It is arising from causes and conditions. And that if we have created the cause over beginningless lifetimes for every possible rebirth, we are most keen to avoid the lower realms. So we take refuge in that which we believe will protect us from that suffering. We want to purify the negative causes and increase the positive ones. So we have I think maybe we'll stop there, and we might have some questions, but you can think about that. But we'll dedicate what we have created so far, and then I'm happy to hear a couple of questions if you want. And then we'll continue on with the general sufferings of samsara, so we can understand these sufferings. And then perhaps through this next week, you might consider doing some Vajrasattva mantra, Om Vajrasattva Hum, before you go to bed at night. So let's see. I'm going to go. Oh, no, I have to go somewhere else. I have to go somewhere else. I have to go somewhere else to find the prayers. Sometimes organization is very good. Okay, here we are. And now let's just go to the dedication. No, honest to Pete, that was the wrong one. Okay, I apologize, but what can I say? Other than I don't have that all together yet. There it is. Okay, I'm going to share that and see what happens. No. Honestly. There it is. Only takes a few moments. So now I can dedicate this perseverance and purify all of the mistakes. Okay, please. In all seriousness, we have created positive experience. We have put a lot of merit into our merit bank. So let's dedicate it to get the highest yield. By merit of this virtue, may I become Buddha, lead all beings, everyone, into that enlightened state. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born, arise and grow, and may that born not decline, but increase more and more. And Master Shantideva's beautiful prayer. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, find an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merit. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms, the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, there too may I remain to dispel the misery of the world. So please also dedicate to the long lives of all our spiritual masters, showing us this good road. May we never be separated from them. And may we always bask in the glory of the Dharma, fulfilling their wishes. And may all those in our life who are unwell be well, and those who've passed away, may they have fortunate rebirths. And dedicating to those on the prayer list for our centers, may they be well, or may they have fortunate rebirths. Oh, yay. Great. Vajrasattva has this practice every evening. Yay. I mean, Thubten Norbu Lang, Vajrasattva has it as well. Thank you so much. Oh, that's really great. That's really great. And there are many ways of doing the Vajrasattva practice. So do it how you like it, with sincerity. You know, that's the most important thing, is to having a sincere wish to be pure, thinking that you're being purified, and thinking that you now are purified, and all of your good qualities are shining. You know, really, all of your awakened qualities are activated. Lama Yeshe used to say, activate, you know, activate your qualities. So it's very good. That's really good. So please, if you have a question, write it to me, you know, email me if you like, or if you have one now, I'm happy to answer, or maybe you need to chew it. like that, but it's valuable information because it's what will save our life. So I enjoy being with you, and next week is our last class, so we'll see how quickly we can speed through or where we come to. Where we come to will be perfect. Exactly where we come to will be perfect. All right. Thank you all. Big love to you. Be well during the week and see you soon on the moon.